Now, Keith Freeman is facing a federal charge, but he is not, we're told, by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Chicago in federal custody tonight. But people here at Dalton Village Hall say they haven't seen him either since word of that indictment dropped just a few hours ago.
Top aide to a controversial South suburban politician's been fired as federal investigators focus in on his boss.
WGN Investigates has confirmed Tiffany Henyard, senior advisor in Thornton Township, is out of a job.
The U.S. attorney accuses Freeman of concealing assets and incomes from his creditors.
Several high-level officials in South suburban Dalton facing a rush of lawsuits and investigations. Federal prosecutors accuse Keith Freeman of making false statements.
It began with murmurs, a mention in passing, a mistake no one was supposed to catch. But by the time Keith Freeman faced formal charges, the truth was already out in the open. The man who once stood proudly beside Dalton's most influential leader, Tiffany Henyard, had become the center of quiet rumors and bold headlines. Freeman, once Henyard's most trusted ally, had now become the emblem of disgrace in the village already.
He's been in and out of trouble since he was a young person. He was charged for theft in 2000. He was charged with a felony in Iowa when he turned 27. This was back in 2005. Theft in the second degree. Oh, Keith is a busybody. He has a long rap sheet. He never cleared up his charges because back in 2011, he was in Palm Beach, Florida, where they extradited him back to Iowa. They said out-of-state fugitive. Fugitive from refugitive from justice. That's your boy, Keith Freeman. Because we all know Tiffany Henyard made a big fuss about not giving background checks. And this is one of the reasons why she didn't want to give a background check. Because anybody that works for municipal department or the city can have felonies. And I'm pretty sure that...
Caught in a wave of scandal, federal prosecutors had finally had enough. The charge? Bankruptcy fraud. But this wasn't a case of a simple clerical error or a few misplaced documents. This was far more serious. The U.S. Attorney's Office alleged that Freeman deliberately hid assets and lied about his earnings. In a world ruled by numbers, Freeman's simply didn't add up. Soon, people started connecting dots that were never meant to connect. He filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy on January 3, 2024, claiming an almost laughably low income, just over $5,800 from his job at Thornton Township. But payroll records told a different story. Between Dalton, Thornton Township, and various side hustles, Freeman had more income streams than he admitted. From Dalton alone, he was pulling in more than $3,800 every 2 weeks. Do the math, and his real annual earnings topped $150,000. Yet on paper, he insisted it was under $6,000. How does someone afford a decent apartment on that? Collecting paychecks from both Dalton and Thornton Township, Freeman was making far more than he declared. His claim that he only worked for Thornton Township was contradicted by Village of Dalton payroll records showing bi-weekly payments of $3,800 as recently as October. The catch? Freeman was a 1099 contractor, meaning he wasn't paying taxes or Social Security on much of that income. He could lie about his finances all he wanted. But what about the village? What were they really getting? Nobody is untouchable. That's the takeaway here. If this is just the first domino falling, it could trigger a cascade of consequences. And that's what needs to happen. Freeman is a key figure in our ongoing coverage of Tiffany Henyard because of his many roles tied to her. Besides his jobs at Dalton and Thornton Township, he once served as the registered agent for the Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation. But that foundation? It doesn't seem to exist in Illinois in any meaningful way. While Henyard's namesake charity claims to aid cancer patients, WGN Investigates found most of its early funding came from taxpayers, and it has repeatedly failed to file required financial reports showing how it spends those funds. Why? Won't they respond to inquiries? Why hasn't the charity filed any financial disclosures? That's not just shady, it's potentially criminal. But Freeman's lies didn't stop there. He submitted a fake 2022 tax return to the bankruptcy trustee, painting himself as barely getting by, when in reality he hadn't filed taxes at all that year. Meanwhile, the village of Robbins came forward with its own accusations. Freeman had been overpaid by nearly $10,000 during his time as their administrator. One fraud led to another. For those paying close attention, This wasn't a surprise. It was the next inevitable chapter in a troubling history. Freeman's record was dotted with warning signs, including a past felony. Now, a high-ranking administrator for both Dalton and Thornton Township was charged with fraud tied to an alleged bankruptcy scheme. The village had also wrapped up negotiations with police patrol, lieutenants, and sergeants. In one recent village board meeting, Freeman sat beside embattled Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, discussing finances. The U.S. attorney accused Freeman of hiding assets and income from creditors, with up to 5 years in prison if convicted. We reached out to Freeman and Dalton officials but have yet to receive a response. This isn't Freeman's first legal trouble. A 2005 fugitive warrant and a 2011 arrest marked earlier brushes with the law. What stung more was how Henyard defended him fiercely, even refusing background checks that might have uncovered his past sooner. It raises a chilling question. Who else was she shielding? Freeman wasn't just an employee. He was part of Henyard's inner circle. Dalton administrator, Thornton Township manager, and registered agent for her foundation. Wherever Henyard moved, Freeman followed. And that foundation, supposedly, helping cancer patients, mostly funded by taxpayers, never filed paperwork to show how funds were used. Emails went unanswered. Reporters were stonewalled. Then, today, Freeman pleaded not guilty to federal bankruptcy charges while also named in another lawsuit against the village and Mayor Henyard. His attorney told reporters the attention on this bankruptcy case was unusual and denied any suggestion Freeman was cooperating with authorities. Yet Henyard stood by Freeman until she didn't. As pressure mounted, Freeman vanished from his post. Rumors swirled. Was he flipping for the feds? Then, quietly, a letter arrived. Thornton Township officially fired Freeman on July 9th, citing repeated absences and misconduct. The tone was cold and final. Your misconduct harms the township's operations. We are public servants, not self-serving. But Freeman lingered on Dalton's payroll. Henyard, meanwhile, continued trying to call the shots. Her board meetings erupted into shouting matches. Trustees demanded answers about unexplained spending, costly cakes, excessive Amazon orders, huge budgets for one-day events. Thousands of dollars vanished with no explanation. Henyard defended every cent, claiming her critics were motivated by hate, resentful of a young black woman in power. But her defiance only fanned the flames. At one meeting, Freeman sat beside her, nodding and smiling, pretending everything was normal. The very same Freeman who swore under oath he wasn't paid by Dalton. The same Freeman who allegedly funneled $195,000 through a pass-through company to hide his true income. Just like that, what started as a financial investigation morphed into something far more troubling. This came just one day after Freeman was sued alongside Mayor Henyard by a Dalton property owner who claims he was unfairly denied a business license. When Keith Freeman told me he'd get me all the permits and help me start working on my property, I believed him. But the next time I met him, he asked, "Who are you? Do I know you?" Tyrone Isom wanted to open a barbershop, then a pigmentation studio in that space. But he says the building inspector told him Henyard blocked the project. According to Isom, Henyard didn't want anyone owning those properties because she wanted the land for herself. That's the story in a nutshell. A complete mess with a mayor acting like she owns every inch of the town and controls every move. Henyard's spokesperson has yet to respond to our requests for comment on the lawsuit. Last month, Henyard once again claimed she's the victim of critics determined to bring down Dalton's first black female mayor. Her close ties to Freeman, who is also under scrutiny, have only added fuel to the fire surrounding their leadership. Good evening. Tonight's meeting was filled with tension. At times, Supervisor Henyard clashed with fellow trustees over finances and expenses, accusing some of spreading falsehoods about her. "Please tell me how I'm out of order," she demanded. "How do trustees operate?" There were many moments, like this, raised voices, heated debates about spending, and the absence of a new budget. Several trustees questioned much of the township's expenditures, while Henyard insisted she had cleaned up the finances. "You all thought I was young and dumb, that I'd let you manipulate me. I didn't, so you started this smear campaign." During the 3-hour meeting, Henyard forced Finance Director Robert Hunt to read through over 100 line items trustees wanted cut. These included thousands spent on Amazon, $169.99 here and more, cakes from local bakeries for community events, and tens of thousands allegedly set aside for one-day festivals like the Taste of Thornton Township. After recent events, the trustees voted to cancel a few upcoming festivals, including Housefest and Gospel Fest. Henyard accused them of acting out of spite. Right now, you're operating with hatred in your hearts. You're acting on feelings, not facts. That's not fair to us, and I don't understand why it's a problem when we have a surplus. Freeman wasn't just deceiving creditors. He was betraying the community he was supposed to serve. In doing so, he became the symbol of all that was wrong with Henyard's administration. The people of Dalton weren't blind. They showed up and spoke out. Some were denied business licenses, allegedly because Henyard wanted the land for herself. One man said Freeman promised permits, but later pretended not to know him. This wasn't just negligence. It felt personal and vindictive. Lawsuits piled up and the media circled like vultures. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was hired to investigate and dropped a bombshell. Dalton faced a $365 million deficit. Credit card abuse, secret spending, zero accountability. Henyard, still defiant, called it all lies, but voters weren't buying it. In the 2025 primaries, she was crushed, garnering only 12% of the vote. A staggering political collapse. Yet she stayed visible, posting videos insulting critics, dodging interviews, and going silent on questions about a Vegas trip where her assistant alleged sexual assault by a trustee. The Illinois Department of Human Rights launched an investigation. Henyard went quiet. Meanwhile, Freeman, now indicted, pleaded not guilty. His lawyer called the media attention unusual for a bankruptcy case, but speculation ran wild. Was the government pressuring him to flip on Henyard? Was he the first domino to fall? Freeman waived discharge of his bankruptcy debts, a move many saw as a strategic attempt to ease the pressure. Porter, there are a million ways a politician could answer those questions, but I have the tea with receipts. If you want the truth, get it from me. Instead of answering reporters, Henyard makes videos attacking opponents. Larry the liar, she calls them. Stop it. She throws insults, but never explains the spending, the leadership failures, or the lack of transparency. This story isn't just about money or corruption. It's about personality. And Tiffany Henyard doesn't like being challenged. She demonstrates this attitude at nearly every village board meeting, especially when opposition trustees ask for more details about village vendors and bills before they agree to sign off. But Freeman's reputation was already in ruins. The man who once sat at the center of Henyard's power circle had become the weak link. More troubling stories surfaced. Freeman allegedly continued collecting pay from Dalton even after being fired in Thornton. While his actions may have been technically legal, they crossed every ethical line a public servant should never approach. Dalton residents began asking, if this is what he was hiding, what else haven't we seen? At town hall meetings, tempers flared. Residents demanded change, called for resignations, and challenged the system that allowed Freeman and Henyard to operate unchecked for so long. Through it all, leadership remained silent, deafeningly so. There was no redemption arc for Freeman. He wasn't some tragic hero. He was part of a machine that prioritized personal gain over public trust. His indictment was more than just a legal blow. It was a wake-up call that echoed through every taxpayer-funded cake, every unanswered email, every blocked business license. The fall of Keith Freeman wasn't his alone. It was Tiffany Henyard's. It was Dalton's. And it sent a message to every official who thought no one was watching. Tonight, more drama in Dalton. Unexplained credit card transactions totaling thousands of dollars and millions more owed to vendors. A bombshell report reveals just how deep the village's financial troubles run. Casey Cronis is live with details. Casey, Don, and Scott, community members, were stunned during tonight's presentation. The report, compiled by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, hired by village trustees in April as an independent investigator, exposed alarming truths about Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard's alleged misuse of village funds. As of May 31st, the village's general fund, which covers most expenses, is $3.65 million in the red. With multiple lawsuits and federal investigations underway, Henyard's political future looks increasingly uncertain. Will she finally face the music, or will residents suffer more? Time will tell. The people of Dalton are now speaking louder than ever. What comes next remains uncertain, but one thing is clear. They've had enough and aren't afraid to say so. More indictments could be on the horizon and investigations may broaden. Henyard, already politically wounded, might not survive. But if this saga teaches us anything, it's that silence only hides the truth for so long. Don't forget to smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and hit subscribe so you never miss a scandal, twist, or jaw-dropper we uncover. Around here, the truth doesn't just come out, we drag it into the spotlight. Stay curious, stay bold, and I'll see you in the next one. Recently, suburban Dalton residents were given the chance to address the controversy surrounding embattled Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Complaints include sexual harassment, retaliation, discrimination, and a controversial trip to Las Vegas last May. NBC's Regina Waldrop reported from tonight's special Dalton Village Board meeting, where a concerned community demanded answers. "I know you're going to ask for an investigation," one resident said, "and I'm hoping that means the administration will have nothing to do with it." Mayor Henyard was absent from the meeting. She and an unnamed village trustee are at the center of an Illinois Department of Human Rights probe focused on allegations arising from that May economic development trip. Henyard's former assistant, who filed the complaint, alleges she was sexually assaulted by the trustee on that trip. NBC is withholding the woman's name to protect her privacy.